Looking back, I probably should have known something was off when my ship's AI started playing the final countdown instead of my usual morning playlist. But hey, when you've been hauling cargo between Earth and the Centauri colonies for 5 years, you learn to roll with the weird stuff. The name's Dave Murphy, and this is the story of how I accidentally caused an intergalactic incident with nothing but dad jokes and an unhealthy obsession with pizza. It started like any other Tuesday in deep space, if Tuesdays even mean anything when you're cruising past stars at faster than light speeds. I was halfway through my third cup of synthetic coffee, trying to convince myself it tasted just like the real thing, when the proximity alerts started blaring. Unknown vessel approaching at high velocity. My ship's AI announced in that artificially calm voice that always makes bad news sound like it's reading a shopping list. Probability of hostile intent, 97.3%. I took another sip of my coffee. Only 97.3%? That's practically a warm welcome in this sector. What's the other 2.7%? According to my calculations, there is a 2.4% chance they are lost tourists and a 0.3% chance this is an elaborate surprise party. Your humor algorithms are getting better, California RL. Thank you, Dave. The hostile vessel is now charging weapons. I sighed and set down my coffee mug, making sure to use the coaster. Mom didn't raise no animal, even when facing imminent space disaster. All right, let's see what we're dealing with. Bring up the visual. The holographic display flickered to life, showing what had to be the most over-designed battleship I'd ever seen. It was covered in so many spikes and dramatic angles that it looked like a geometry homework assignment gone wrong. The ship was painted in deep purple with gold accents, because apparently some alien civilizations never got the memo that subtlety is an option. Attention, human vessel. A voice boomed through my comm system, apparently under the impression that volume equals authority. This is Commander Vrax of the Gelaxian Empire. You will power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. I leaned back in my pilot's chair, propping my feet up on the console. Hey Carl, what do we know about the Gelaxians? The Gelaxian Empire is a moderately advanced civilization known for their bureaucratic approach to conquest and their peculiar obsession with dramatic entrances. They are also notorious for their complete inability to understand human psychology, having failed at every attempted interrogation of a human subject. Fascinating. And they're still at it? Evidently so. Shall I prepare the emergency protocols? Nah. I stretched and cracked my knuckles. I've got nothing better to do today. Let's see what they've got. Carl, power down all systems except life support and that playlist I've been saving for a special occasion. The one labeled Songs to Drive Aliens Crazy By? That's the one. As the Gelaxian tractor beam locked onto my ship, I couldn't help but smile. Some people might consider being captured by an alien empire to be a bad start to their day. But me? I was already composing dad jokes in my head. These poor aliens had no idea what they were in for. The last thing I heard before the boarding party breached my airlock was the opening notes of Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. Because if you're going to get abducted by aliens, you might as well rickroll them in the process. Carl's voice came through one last time. Dave, I feel I should inform you that your approach to hostage situations is highly unconventional. Thanks, California RL. I'll take that as a compliment. And that, my friends, is how I became the first human to make an entire alien empire question their life choices through the power of bad puns and worse music. But we'll get to that part soon enough. The first thing you should know about Gelaxian holding cells is that they're way too dramatic. Everything's either matte black or chrome, with these pulsing purple lights that look like they were stolen from a teenage alien's bedroom. It's like they designed their entire aesthetic based on watching Earth's B-grade sci-fi movies from the 2010s. I was sitting in what they probably thought was an intimidating interrogation chair, but was actually surprisingly comfortable. The restraints even had ergonomic padding. Say what you will about the Gelaxians, but they believe in prisoner comfort. The door slid open with an unnecessarily long hydraulic hiss. Two figures entered, one tall and imposing, the other barely reaching the first one's waist. The tall one had the typical Gelaxian appearance, silvery skin, 4 arms, and a face that looked perpetually disappointed. The short one was bouncing on their feet, practically vibrating with excitement. Human prisoner, the tall one announced. I am Commander Vrax, Chief Interrogator of the Gelaxian Empire's Information Extraction Division. This is Junior Agent Pip. Hi. Pip waved enthusiastically with all 4 hands. This is my first interrogation. Vrax shot them a look that could have frozen hydrogen. Junior Agent Pip is here to observe proper interrogation techniques. Oh, this is going to be fun, I grinned. Quick question though, do you guys do coffee breaks? Because I was kind of in the middle of my morning cup when you showed up. Vrax's face twitched. This is not a social occasion, human. You will tell us everything you know about Earth's defense systems. Everything? I raised an eyebrow. That could take a while. Should I start with the history of the DMV? That's technically a defense system. It's defended America from efficiency for decades. Pip pulled out a notepad. What's a DMV? No, Vrax snapped. Do not engage with the prisoner's attempts at distraction. Remember your training. But the manual says to gather all potentially relevant information, Pip protested, flipping through their notes. Maybe the DMV is a secret weapon. I nodded sagely. Oh, it absolutely is. Nothing breaks an invasion force like having to take a number and wait 6 hours to fill out Form X-742B in triplicate. Vrax slammed all 4 hands on the table. Enough. We will begin with standard psychological pressure techniques. They pressed a button, and the room's lighting shifted to what I assumed they thought was an ominous red glow. Ooh, mood lighting, I commented. You know, this reminds me of this great little bistro back on Earth. They had the same lighting fantastic breadsticks. Speaking of which, is there any chance of getting a snack? I'm thinking something Italian. The prisoner appears to be obsessed with Earth's sustenance, Pip noted, scribbling furiously. We do not provide comfort food to prisoners, Vrax declared. You will find our dietary provisions adequate but intentionally bland. Bland? I gasped in mock horror. You monsters, you know what's not bland? Pizza. Have you ever had pizza? Picture this. A perfect circle of hand-tossed dough, covered in rich tomato sauce, melted cheese that stretches for miles when you take a bite, pepperoni that curls up into tiny cups of deliciousness. Pip's eyes widened. Commander, what is this pizza weapon? Should we be concerned? It's not a weapon, Vrax growled, but I noticed one of their hands unconsciously touching their stomach. Oh, but it is, I continued, warming to my subject. It's a weapon of mass satisfaction, especially when you get it with stuffed crust. Do you know what stuffed crust is? Imagine taking that cheese I mentioned and hiding more of it inside the crust, so when you get to the end of each slice, there's this perfect core of melted. Enough, Vrax roared. Pip, make a note. Subject displays remarkable resistance to hunger. Based coercion through elaborate food descriptions. Should I request a sample of this pizza for analysis? Pip asked hopefully. No. We are interrogators, not food critics. But I noticed Vrax's voice lacked conviction. We will proceed with psychological destabilization technique number 2. Is that the one with the forms? Pip bounced excitedly. I brought extra pens. I settled back in my comfortable chair, fighting to keep a straight face. This was going to be even better than I'd hoped. You know, I said casually, I once spent 3 hours filling out a form only to be told I was in the wrong line. That was at the DMV too. Have I mentioned the DMV yet? Vrax's eye twitched again. Pip started a new page in their notes. And that's how my first interrogation session went. By the end of it, Pip had filled 3 notepads with crucial intelligence about Earth's bureaucratic systems, and Vrax looked like they were developing a stress headache in all 3 of their brain lobes. Little did they know this was just the warm-up round. By day 3 of my captivity, I had developed something of a routine. Wake up on my surprisingly comfortable prison cot, do some light exercises, gotta stay fit for all that psychological warfare, and wait for my daily interrogation session. The Gelaxians were nothing if not punctual. What I hadn't expected was to find Commander Vrax already waiting in the interrogation room, looking slightly disheveled, which for a Gelaxian means one of their 4 sleeves was wrinkled. Rough night? I asked cheerfully. The crew. Vrax paused, clearly struggling with their dignity. The crew has submitted 17 separate petitions demanding we investigate this pizza concept further. For security purposes, of course. Of course, I nodded seriously. Can't be too careful about potential weapons of mass deliciousness. Where's Pip? Junior Agent Pip has been temporarily reassigned after attempting to recreate your described stuffed crust using standard nutrition packets and the engine room's thermal regulators. I tried to picture it and winced. How'd that go? 3 maintenance droids are still trying to remove the cheese substitute from the ventilation system. Vrax's face took on a haunted expression. It stretches. Yeah, that's kind of the point. Though usually it stays on the pizza, not the ceiling. Speaking of pizza, Have I told you about Hawaiian style? It's this whole controversial thing where you put pineapple on. Stop! Vrax slammed all four hands on the table again. I was starting to worry about their blood pressure. You will cease these psychological attacks disguised as culinary discussions. I haven't even gotten to Chicago deep dish yet. Now that's what I call a controversial topic. Some people say it's not even really pizza, it's more like a savory pie with an identity crisis. The door slid open and a frazzled-looking Gelaxian bureaucrat rushed in, waving a datapad. Commander, we have a situation in the mess hall. The crew is refusing to eat their standard nutrition cubes. They're demanding something called extra cheese and garlic knots. Should we treat this as a military uprising? I helpfully added, you know what goes great with garlic knots? Marinara sauce. It's like tomato sauce's spicier, more adventurous cousin. Out! Vrax bellowed at the bureaucrat, who scurried away. Then they turned to me with what I assume was supposed to be a menacing glare. You are deliberately destabilizing my crew. Me? I'm just making conversation. Did you know there's this place in New York that's been using the same sourdough starter for their pizza dough for over 300 years? The secret's in the water, they say. Something about the mineral content. This is pointless, Vrax muttered, mostly to themselves. We've tried negative reinforcement, psychological pressure, dietary restrictions. They consulted their notes. The only thing left is paperwork protocol. Oh, paperwork. Why didn't you say so? I love paperwork. This one time at the DMV. Please, Vrax interrupted, and I was startled to hear an actual note of desperation in their voice. Please stop talking about Earth food. The ship's chef has threatened to resign if one more crew member asks them to make it crispy on the bottom but still chewy in the middle. I grinned. You know what else is crispy on the bottom but chewy in the middle? A properly made Detroit-style pizza. It's got these corners where the cheese caramelizes against the pan. Vrax made a sound that I can only describe as a cross between a whimper and a growl. Guards! Return the prisoner to his cell. And, they seemed to physically pain them to add, send someone to research Earth food preparation techniques, for security purposes. As I was being led back to my cell, I heard a commotion from the direction of the mess hall. Someone was chanting, "We want pizza," in badly accented English. I might have felt bad about starting a culinary revolution, but hey, they started it by interrupting my coffee. Besides, everyone deserves to experience the joy of pizza at least once in their life, even if they are technically your captors. Through the walls, I could hear Vrax's voice. What do you mean the maintenance crew is trying to modify the plasma forge into a pizza oven? I settled onto my cot with a satisfied smile. Phase 1 of Operation Marinara Mayhem was complete. Now it was time to introduce them to the concept of food delivery apps. Poor bastards wouldn't know what hit them. By the end of the first week, the Gelaxians had officially given up on food-based interrogation tactics. This might have had something to do with the fact that 3 different departments had submitted formal requests to study Earth's circular nutrition delivery systems, their words not mine, and someone had started a black market trading system based on my descriptions of different pizza toppings. That's when Vrax decided to bring out their secret weapon, paperwork. Form GX-591, B7, Vrax announced with grim satisfaction, dropping a stack of papers onto the interrogation table. Each sheet seemed to shimmer with a faint purple glow. The standard Imperial Prisoner Intelligence Extraction Documentation Package. I picked up the first page and squinted at it. You guys still use actual paper? That's kind of retro. Our studies show that physical documentation creates a more oppressive psychological impact, Vrax explained, trying to sound intimidating but mostly coming across as a middle manager excited about new office supplies. Makes sense, I nodded. Though you might want to use a different font. This one's pretty similar to Comic Sans, and let me tell you, nobody takes Comic Sans seriously. Pip, who had been allowed back on interrogation duty after promising not to attempt any more unauthorized cooking experiments, started taking notes again. What is this Comic Sans and why is it not to be taken seriously? Focus, Vrax snapped. Human, you will complete these forms in triplicate. They must be filled out in exactly the right order, with precisely the correct spacing and formatting. Any errors will result in starting the entire process over. I gave them my brightest smile. Oh, perfect. This reminds me of this one time at the DMV when I had to. No, all 3 of Vrax's brain lobes visibly pulsed. No more DMV stories. Just fill out the forms. I picked up one of the silver-tipped space pens they'd provided and started reading. Let's see. Section 1. A. Personal information. Simple enough. Oh, but there's a footnote. And the footnote has footnotes. And those footnotes have... Are these footnotes fractal? The imperial bureaucratic system is highly precise, Vrax said proudly. Every possible variation must be accounted for. Interesting. I started writing. So for species designation, if I check human here, does that mean I need to fill out Appendix C-12 about beings with only 2 arms? Or would that fall under Appendix D-4, regrettably symmetrical species? Pip flipped frantically through their manual. Actually, according to the latest update, humans are now classified under Appendix E-7, species with concerning levels of pattern recognition and potentially weaponized sarcasm. Really? I brightened. We got our own appendix? Moving up in the galaxy? Though personally, I would have gone with species with amazing pizza, but I guess bureaucracy has its own priorities. Vrax pinched the bridge of their nose with one hand while using another to make a note. Just fill out the forms. In silence. Oh, sure. But quick question. For the section about previous encounters with Imperial forces, should I include that time last Tuesday, when your ship's chef asked me for the secret to getting the pizza crust bubble up just right? That was an unauthorized contact, Vrax spluttered. Better make it a footnote then. Speaking of footnotes, this reminds me of this time at the DMV when they had me fill out a form explaining why I couldn't provide the form that would have proved I didn't need the first form. 2 hours later, I had filled out exactly 1 line of the first form. I had, however, successfully created 3 new appendices to account for previously unconsidered variables in human dining habits. Submitted 5 requests for clarification on the definition of standard galactic time versus Earth pizza delivery time. Started a debate between 2 administrative departments about whether garlic bread should be classified as a side dish or its own food group. Convinced Pip to start a petition for adding a checkbox for food-based diplomatic initiatives to all standard forms. Vrax stared at the stack of forms, then at me, then back at the forms. I had somehow managed to use all 4 space pens they'd given me, creating an intricate diagram explaining the relationship between proper dough hydration percentages and bureaucratic efficiency. Vrax seemed to be struggling for words. This is not how interrogations are supposed to work. Really? Because I'm having a great time. Hey, did you know that on Earth, some people actually fill out their tax forms while eating pizza? It's like a tradition. Speaking of traditions, have I told you about Chicago deep dish yet? Return the prisoner to his cell, Vrax said weakly. And someone file a request to review our entire documentation system. Apparently it has. Vulnerabilities. As the guards led me out, I heard Pip ask, should I submit that through Form GX-591B7? Or would it be better to use Form GX-591B7 pizza? I think I actually heard Vrax's spirit break a little. Just wait until they discover the concept of online ordering forms. But that's a psychological weapon best saved for another day. By the beginning of week 2, things had taken an interesting turn aboard the Gelaxian ship. The crew had started greeting me with nervous waves when they passed my cell. Some would quickly look away, while others would mouth, "What's anchovy?" when their superiors weren't looking. But the real fun began during that morning's interrogation session. Human, Vrax began, their voice carrying the weight of someone who'd spent the night arguing about proper cheese to sauce ratios with their subordinates. We are implementing new questioning protocols today. But I was just getting good at the old ones, I said. I even memorized all 16 sub-appendices of Form GX-591B7. Did you know there's a clause about proper pizza tossing technique hidden in the fine print? There is not. Wait. Vrax squinted at me. Are you attempting to make me check? Would I do that to you? I asked innocently. By the way, is that a new uniform? The fabric looks different, almost like it's made of wife material. There was a moment of absolute silence. What? Vrax's eye twitched. What did you just say? Oh, sorry, was that too cheesy? I grinned. Speaking of cheese, no. All 4 of Vrax's hands slammed onto the table. No more cheese references. No more pizza analogies. And absolutely no more of these strange linguistic constructs you call dad jokes. Hey, what did the pizza say when it walked into the doctor's office? I waited a beat. I'm not feeling great. Pip, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly burst out laughing, then quickly tried to cover it with a cough. Junior Agent Pip. Vrax looked scandalized. Need I remind you that we are conducting a serious interrogation? Sorry, Commander, Pip managed, still fighting back giggles. It's just because cheese graters and feeling great. It's a homophone. A what? Vrax demanded. Oh, you want to hear about homophones? I perked up. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. Pip lost it completely, dropping their notepad as they doubled over laughing. Stop this at once, Vrax ordered, but I could see the panic in their eyes. They knew they were losing control of the situation. What do you call a fake noodle? I continued relentlessly. An impasta. By now, even the guards at the door were struggling to maintain their composure. This is psychological warfare, Vrax accused. No, this is just my way of breaking the ice, I replied. Speaking of which, what did the ice cream say to the frustrated waffle? Let me console you. Pip was now on the floor, wheezing with laughter. One of the guards had to leave the room, their shoulders shaking suspiciously. You don't understand, Vrax said desperately. We're supposed to be breaking you. Hi, supposed to be breaking you, I responded immediately. I'm Dad. That did it. The remaining guard actually snorted, quickly trying to turn it into a cough when Vrax glared at them. Commander, Pip managed between giggles, I think we might be the ones being interrogated. Nonsense, Vrax declared, but their voice lacked conviction. This is clearly some form of advanced human psychological defense mechanism. Why did the cookie go to the doctor? I asked innocently. Don't you dare. Vrax started. Because it was feeling crumbly. Pip actually squealed with delight. Commander, that one works in Gelaxian too. It's a universal dad joke. I could see the exact moment Vrax realized they had completely lost control of the situation. Their antennae drooped, and all four shoulders slumped in defeat. The prisoner, they said quietly, will be returned to his cell. And someone please submit a formal request to update our species threat assessment database. Add weaponized wordplay to the list of human psychological warfare capabilities. As I was being let out, I couldn't resist one more. Hey Vrax, what did the grape say when it got stepped on? Nothing, it just let out a little whine. The last thing I saw before the door closed was Pip trying to explain the concept of puns to an increasingly distressed Vrax, complete with helpful diagrams. Phase 3 of Operation Total Datification was complete. Now it was time to introduce them to knock-knock jokes. The galaxy wouldn't know what hit it. The end came faster than anyone expected. Not with a bang, not with a whimper, but with a pizza delivery guy. Okay, technically it was a Centaurian cargo ship responding to my ship's automated distress beacon, but the timing couldn't have been better. They arrived just as the Gelaxian crew was staging what they called a routine inspection, but what was actually a very poorly disguised attempt to learn more about Earth's circular food-based culture. I was in the middle of explaining the concept of 30 minutes or it's free to an increasingly fascinated group of Gelaxian officers when the ship-wide announcement came. Commander Vrax to the bridge immediately. Centaurian vessel approaching. This is not a drill. Repeat. This is not a drill. Oh yeah. I mentioned casually to the room of suddenly panicked aliens. I forgot to mention, did you know that humanity has really good relations with the Centaurians? Something about sharing our coffee with them back in 42. They're really protective of Earth traders now. Vrax burst into the room, all four arms gesturing wildly. Human, what is the meaning of this? Well, I leaned back in my chair. I'm no expert in galactic law, but I'm pretty sure kidnapping a human civilian trader violates about. I pretended to count on my fingers. 17 different interstellar treaties. But hey, no hard feelings. I've actually enjoyed our little cultural exchange. Cultural exchange? Vrax's eye twitched one final time. Sure, you learned about pizza, dad jokes, and the true horror of bureaucracy. And I learned that you guys really need to update your interrogation manual. Did you know there's nothing in there about dealing with prisoners who actually enjoy paperwork? Seems like an oversight. The ship's communication system crackled to life. Gelaxian vessel. This is the Centaurian Defense Force. Release the human traitor immediately or face diplomatic consequences. I should probably mention, I added helpfully, that the Centaurians are really big fans of Earth pizza. We might want to hide those unauthorized pizza oven blueprints I saw in the engineering bay. Vrax seemed to deflate completely. This entire operation has been a disaster. Look on the bright side, I offered. You've expanded your culinary horizons, learned some excellent jokes, and discovered why humans are classified as a do not detain species in most civilized sectors. I'd call that a productive week. 20 minutes later, I was back on my ship, Carl's familiar presence welcoming me home. I trust your inadvertent diplomatic mission was successful? Carl asked as I settled into the pilot's seat. You could say that, though I might have accidentally introduced an entire alien empire to the concept of food delivery services, and dad jokes, and unnecessarily complicated paperwork systems. Should we be concerned about potential retaliation? I checked my communications panel, which was already blinking with new messages. Actually, it looks like I've received formal requests from the Gelaxian Cultural Exchange Office for information about Earth's pizza preparation methodologies. And, is that a subscription to my dad joke newsletter? Your newsletter doesn't exist, Carl pointed out. It does now. I smell a business opportunity. How do you feel about becoming the galaxy's first interstellar pizza and comedy consultant? I feel that my programming is inadequate to fully express how bad an idea that is. That's the spirit. I grinned, setting a course for the nearest space station. You know what they say. The way to an alien empire's hearts is through their stomach, even if they have 3 of them. No one says that, Dave. They will now. And that's how I ended up with a thriving consulting business teaching alien civilizations about Earth culture, one pizza and dad joke at a time. The Gelaxians, it turns out, became my best clients, though they still haven't quite figured out how to eat a calzone without creating a diplomatic incident. As for Commander Vrax, last I heard, they'd been reassigned to the Department of Human Cultural Studies, where they're writing a thesis on the psychological implications of stuffed crust pizza. Pip sends me weekly requests for new dad jokes, which they're apparently using to revolutionize Gelaxian comedy nights. Sometimes the best defense isn't a good offense. It's just being so authentically, inexplicably human that your would-be interrogators end up questioning their own life choices instead of you. Also, it helps if you know some really good pizza places. Just saying.